Thank you all for coming to today's media availability. We'll have head coach Chris Winter start things off, and then once he is done kind of sharing his thoughts on the week, then we'll open it up for questions, and please raise your hand and I will call on each of you. So go ahead, coach.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks first of all for everyone for being here and checking in on Wartburg football. And exciting week obviously for our program right now. Getting ready for Mount Union for the semifinal game. So we've had a chance to take a look at them a little bit so far here on film, and we know we've got a heck of an opponent. Certainly have a great track record there. Multiple national championships. Competing in the Final Four like this about every year over there. So. We know what we're up against, but we also know we've got a great team this fall. And as like I said, we've been watching them. Certainly, they have a very balanced offense. They've got a running back that's over 1,000 yards rushing this year. One of the best receivers in the country right now. Very explosive player, and quarterback that makes things happen. And then defensively, I think that's what a lot of people are talking about when they look at Mount Union right now. Their defense is fast, it's physical. They make a lot of plays on the film. I think our teams have a lot of similarities in that balance on both sides of the ball, and we're looking forward to a great weekend and a heck of a Division III football game coming up here on Saturday. So that's where we're at right now, and open to any questions you guys have.
Are those things you mentioned, Chris, what concerns you most about Mount Union?
Yeah, I would say they have a lot of depth, and they're, like I said, their team speed. Certainly defensively, they run very well. Like on the perimeter on offense, and make some very explosive plays. And really, I think in the kicking game, that's another area, on special teams, you see their kickoff team run down there, the way that they establish field position, on special teams, create turnovers, setting their offense up with good opportunities to score. And that was a big part of their last game against Delaware Valley. They had a couple drives that were just over 30 yards for scoring drives. And so when you've got that going, that's a little scary when they've got that type of field position, that type of offense. So yeah, I would say their team speed, something that really stands out, and certainly that'll be something we've got to be ready for.
How is Niall Gloughlin's ankle at this point?
Yeah, I think he's doing well. Obviously as well as could be expected after a game time decision and play the full game out there for us. But yeah, he's doing well. We're planning on getting him out there a little bit more in practice this week than we were able to last week. So today he'll be out there, throwing the ball around a little bit. And kind of get involved a little bit in the offense, and then as the week progresses, we plan on him getting a little bit more load and getting him ready to go for Saturday. So we're happy with where he's at right now in comparison to where it was at a week ago at this time, for sure.
When you reach this point in the season, playing a team of that caliber at this point in the season, I mean, you haven't really played comparative teams. You come from different regions of the country. You really won't know until you get out there on the field with these guys how they play, how physical they are, kind of feel them. I mean, how do you prepare your team for something like that? I know you have the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I think like you said, the last 3 weeks have helped. Really, the last 4. I mean, if you add in Co and then the 3 playoff games, those were physical, hard-fought football games that helped prepare us. But yeah, I mean, like you said, in practice, there's not a lot you can do at this point to necessarily totally prepare your team for that. But I think the body of work that we've had since the season started has got us prepared. Every week, I think I've said this, you've all probably heard me say it multiple times, but our approach has been kind of, hey, let's go one day at a time, making sure we're getting better that day, control what we can control, and try and make sure we're improving and we're preparing. And that's the approach guys have taken. So I think that'll be the same this week is, hey, let's control what we can control. Let's go out there, work hard in practice. It won't be exactly what it looks like on Saturday, but when we get there, we know we've been in games like this before and playing with confidence and taking it one play at a time.
From a travel standpoint, though, Chris, you're going further away this year than you've done this year. How big of a distraction can that be at this stage of the game?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more for the coaching staff than for the players. So I spent a little bit more time preparing for a road trip than I have preparing for maybe for their offense as much as I would like to. So I know it's a little bit of a distraction for me. I'm trying to keep that from being something the players are worried, from something they're worried about. I mean, it'd be kind of nice that we get on an airplane and it's only a 2-hour trip instead of a 4 or 5 hour bus ride like we had to take up there to St. John's. So I think it'll be different. Like, we're not used to getting on planes and flying around, but I think the guys will enjoy that part of it. It'll be something new and exciting for them. And once we get there and you start practice on Friday evening and you kind of go through the same cycle we've been going through, I think they'll be ready to go and the distractions will be out of the way.
Well, this Wartburg team has gone further than any of the Wartburg team in history, all the great players, all the great coaches. How do you keep this, I mean, was the expectation instilled in this team from the beginning of the season or some part of the season that we have the ability to make it this far?
You know, I think we knew we had the talent to make a run at this thing. I don't know if we knew exactly how it would all come together. I think the biggest thing that happened here during the season is we took that talent and we brought that talent together, and it's a family and it's tight, and there's no egos involved in this thing right now. All these guys are just, they play for each other every week, they compete for each other every week. And I really think that's what's taking us over the top right now, is just the team unity and the togetherness. And like I said, it doesn't matter who makes the play, everybody's excited, everybody's on board. And the guys have done a great job of what I've been talking about, is just taking it one day at a time, not really getting too far ahead of themselves, not looking at what we've done in the past, but focusing on the present. And I think that's gone a long way. So yeah, we felt like we had the talent in place, but I think a few other things have happened here throughout the year with our team coming together and our senior leaders really stepping up that have taken us to where we are today. That's really made this a special year.
This is the 14th game in the last 15 weeks. It's a grind that you don't get at the FBS level. It's kind of an NFL type grind, and these guys deal with the social and academic things of being a college student as well. Is it just a case of embracing that grind at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think it is. I think when you get to this point, I think they're beyond that part of it. I think probably when we were in weeks, 8, 9, leading up to the conference championship week, guys might have been feeling that a little bit, but now it's all adrenaline, right? Every week is a rush. Every week you're accomplishing new history for Wartburg College, and I think they're excited to be in this position. And I think if you ask them, I don't think they feel like it's a grind right now. I think they're enjoying the ride and excited to have a chance just to be together. I know Jordan Downing mentioned that on Saturday after the game, just, hey, it's fun to win, it's fun to be part of all this, but one of the things they're excited about is, hey, we get a chance to be a team for another week. And that's been one of the things, hey, let's fight for the life of this football team every week, because at some point we won't be the same. There'll be another Wartburg football team, but it won't be this football team. And so I think they're very passionate about that right now, and they're enjoying that ride and like you said, embracing the grind, but I don't know if they really think of it as a grind right now. I think they're having a lot of fun.
Coach, how are you preparing your team for this road environment? This is a team that's won numerous national championships and is going to have a great crowd there. How do you get them ready for that environment that they're going to play in?
Yeah, and I think that's the first thing I talked about in our team meeting, last night was been our saying throughout is nameless, faceless. So, hey, let's not worry about who we're playing or where we're going or any of that stuff. Let's worry about us. Let's worry about making sure that we're preparing to play Wartburg football. And if we play our game and our style and the way that we've been competing, we're not really worried about who shows up, what jersey they have on, what their history is. We just want to make sure we're playing our game, and we're trying to be the aggressors. And kind of like I've been telling the guys throughout the year, hey, we don't want to be the team reacting to them. We want them reacting to us in every play. And so if we're just preparing with that mindset and worried about making sure we can control what we can do to get better and be ready to go, I think that'll keep us from, maybe some of that pressure that mounts up when you start talking about a team like this that has got that rich tradition. And so I think that'll be the approach this week, and I think that's been the approach, throughout the year that our guys have really embraced.
That approach just got you this far, but this defense that's really set the tone for your team this year, that's really set the tone. How important is that for this game on Saturday? Yeah,
no doubt. I already I mentioned their defense and how strong they are, and so we know that our offense is going to have their hands full, and there's going to be times when they're not going to be able to, maybe do the things they'd like to do, and it's going to be kind of a field position battle, I think, at times. And so defensively, we've really got to do a good job of trying to make them one-dimensional. That's been our deal all year long. I mean, we currently have the #1 rushing defense in the country in Division III football, and so if we can continue to have that happen, this weekend, we know they have the talent to throw the ball around and make plays in the passing game, but when we know they're going to pass it, it becomes a little bit easier, for us to be able to mix and match coverages, get pressure on the quarterback. But when they keep good balance on offense, that makes it a challenge for our defense to be able to, take advantage of some of those things. So I think that's going to be a big part of it, is the same recipe we've had all year. Hey, let's make sure we're able to stop the run. Let's get him one-dimensional. Let's put some pressure on that quarterback and see how he handles it. And again, turnovers from our defense have really set up our offense with some opportunities as well. And I think that'll be a big part of this game. And field position, again, special teams, kicking game, all that stuff. So, like I said, I think a lot of it's the same. I kind of sound like a broken record that way, but it's the same recipe. And, the defense is going to have a big part of that and stepping up and continue to play that we have all year.
The perception would be that you guys are the underdog, but is that kind of an incorrect narrative because you're also undefeated? You beat 2 ranked teams already in the playoffs.
Right, I'm hoping that people are starting to recognize that a little bit. I think from our team standpoint, we are certainly confident and feel like we can hang in there with anybody. But at the same time, I think there is going to be that sense out there, hey, Mount Union's been here before, and this is Wartburg's first time. And there's certainly some advantages to that. Their program knows what it's like to be in this situation. This is our first time in this situation. But like I said, I think our guys have been in some difficult games. Going up to St. John's is no easy task. Having lacrosse coming here is no easy task. Winning the conference championship at Coe College is not an easy task. Winning at Central College, we know we've this season. If you look at our schedule, we were on the road, at Monmouth, where we hadn't won there since 2011. Had to go to Dubuque, had to go to Central, had to go to Coe, had to go up to St. John's and went up there. So you start adding all that together, and I think that part of the advantage for Mount Union of just being at home, I feel like we can negate some of that. But I think they're like I said, their history and their having been there before is going to be a little bit of the advantage I think people will see, and I'm hoping we can find a way to be one of those teams that's been there before in the future too.
Well, you just talked about how tough your conference is just to get through, and do people forget that? You're reminding people how far Wartburg's going in this tournament that the Rivers is tough.
Yeah, the American Rivers Conference is, I think this year for what we've done is started to make a name. You beat, like I said, a team from the Wisconsin League, a team from the MIAC up there, and then really beat a really tough Aurora team who beat Wisconsin Whitewater. That shows something. You go back last year and look at what Central did, beating Bethel and Wheaton, 2, Division III powers. I think our league, and then you go back to 2019, the last time we had a season, and we went over to Hope College in Michigan and won convincingly, and Central won at home against Oshkosh out of Wisconsin. And so you start looking at the last 3 years of American Rivers Conference playoff success, and I think people maybe think about the American Rivers Conference and don't put it on the same level as some of those leagues, but I think in the last 3 years of playoffs, we've been starting to make a name for ourselves and showing that, we can hang with these teams, and we've got a great league, and hopefully that'll be something we continue to, get some advantage from moving forward as they look at playoff pairings and things like that in the future, and we don't always get the best scenario out of that, but I think right now people are starting to realize that our conference is really capable, and I'm glad we're one of the teams that's making a statement about that for sure.
What does this say about this team, Chris, when you look back? You mentioned 2019. This was a program that was shut down for, I think it was like 280 days, pretty much. You hadn't played you didn't have a spring 2021 season like a lot of them did. Be able to do this just 2 years later, what does it say about the program?
Yeah, I think it says a lot of something about our kids. I don't know, obviously a lot of people give credit to coaches and things like that, but I think it says something about the kids that we have in our program to go through what they've gone through. Like you said, 2019 had a normal season, shared the conference championship. We're looking forward to 2020 and keeping that rolling, and then just to have your whole season be canceled. No fall, no spring, school's different, everything's different, and for the kids that are here right now that were here during that time, that are juniors, seniors, and fifth-year seniors that had to go through that, and to get to where we're at today, that just says something about the type of kids they are, their work ethic, just their personality, their love for each other. I think a lot of why they stuck with it wasn't about playing football, as you can learn from that, right? You lose a whole year and all these kids are still here. It's because they love each other, they care about each other, they love being around each other, they love the game of football, and to have the opportunity to come out and do what we're doing right now is really special. I think it says a lot about, like I said, our players and our kids. And I also think it says something about this year's team, coming off 2020, last year going 7-3. That's not the standard of Wartburg football, and these guys know that. And so what we did throughout the off season, how we kind of transformed, our group. And, there were some guys that didn't stick with it, that decided that football wasn't for them, and what happened last year wasn't for them. And the guys that stuck with us and have been with us this time, it's really special to be in this position and have a chance to do something we're going to do this Saturday. So yeah, I think that's a big deal.
And last week was the first time that you were down 2 scores in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, once the switch flipped, it went in the right direction pretty fast. Being able to handle a situation like that, what did that say about your team and the growth that you've experienced throughout the 13 games to this point.
Yeah, no doubt. That was great to see, and I think that's been one of the mottos. I know on defense for sure. Coach Cheddar, our defense coordinator, he talks to our guys the idea: don't flinch. Whatever's happened, don't flinch. We're going to be all right. Just stick with the plan, stick together, have each other's backs, and let's just keep competing. And that's been, like I said, it's been the way it is all year. And I think part of it is going back to what I said about us being a tight knit group. When that happened, we didn't have a lot of guys. Certainly you could point out a couple guys probably made a mistake in there, but no one was pointing fingers at each other. Nobody was worried about the next play making a mistake. They had each other's backs. And so that's a big part of that thing. I mean, that gives you a lot of confidence knowing that, hey, if we get our backs against the wall a little bit and we're in a tough situation, there's not going to be any panic on that team. And obviously when you're playing in big games like we have been and you get into the Final Four and you're going over to Mount Union, everything's not going to go our way on Saturday. I wish I could tell you it would, but I know we're going to have things that happen on Saturday that won't be exciting for us. But I also know now, going through that our team will respond in a great manner, and I think it gives them a lot of confidence going into a game like this for sure.
Well, theoretically, to make it this far, you had to be perfect on the field. You had to go undefeated. You couldn't lose during the regular season, non-conference, and the playoffs. You had to be undefeated. So you've kind of been playing under some playoff pressure throughout this whole season in terms of knowing you had to win that game to reach the highest level that you're at now.
Yeah, no doubt. The guys have been through some pressure games for sure. When you get to the point where you go back to the Co game where we're 9-0 and you've had that type of season and it comes down to one game for your playoff hopes, for your championship hopes, all on the line. That was a lot of pressure that day, and the guys handled that well. And we had to battle through adversity that day as well. We were trailing at halftime and got it done in the second half. And then I think, maybe when we first started the playoff run here, there was kind of that chip on the shoulder. The expectation was, we're going to play against a team that's, more talented than you, better than you, and all these people think that's. So maybe there's not as much pressure as there is a chip on the shoulder and edge. But then you come back home for an Elite Eight game last week against Aurora, where all of a sudden we became the favorite, and now that's a little bit of pressure again. And so the guys have been through that, like you said, and I think we're gaining a lot of experience from that. We understand that, like I said, pressure is a good thing to have. It's a good thing when you have pressure. It means there's expectations there and people think highly of you. And so I think the guys are embracing that and running with that, and that's been something that's helped us be successful this year, for sure.
What about last question here? This one's from D3Football.com. Del Valle held Mount Union to a relatively low point total. What did you see from Mount that helped them be successful?
Yeah. So as we were watching that game, I think Delaware Valley did a pretty nice job of taking away some of Mount Union's balance. Now they did run the ball. I mean, if we look at the final stats, their yardage total was pretty solid running it, but they had one really explosive run in there that busted out about 50 or 60 yards. And then from there, they were able to kind of keep the run game from getting too crazy, and they did a nice job of handling number 6, their top wide receiver. He had a number of catches and yards, but they weren't the explosive type. So to me, that kind of tells us a little something. That's been our recipe all year, is if you can keep this team from being explosive and scoring from 40, 50, 60 yards, and you make them drive the field, have to convert, have to execute in the red zone, and you keep them from being explosive, I think that's the best way to handle their offense right now. And I think that if you look at our games lately here in the playoffs, that's kind of been the recipe. Even on Saturday with Aurora, they had some drives where they moved the ball, but we didn't allow them to score on a chunk play. And at some point, they made a mistake, either turning the ball over, us getting a sack, getting a penalty, getting them off schedule. And so I think that'll be a very similar deal. And I think that's kind of what we learned from Delaware Valley is if you keep these guys from being explosive, you got a great chance to hang in there and give your offense a chance to keep you in the game.
Good luck Saturday.
All right, thank you.